Whenever a new MCU film comes out, it always feels like the cool thing to say is that the franchise has lost its way or it's on its way out, but this has always felt a touch reactionary to me. Now, to be completely fair, there has been a quality issue since Avengers Endgame came out, and it's not hard to see why. That film represented an incredible ending to a 10-year plus saga that, despite all of the moving parts that it had to juggle, still gave every character their time to shine. Since Endgame, however, we've seen one of two things: stories that introduce new characters like Shang-Chi and She-Hulk, or stories that deal with the fallout from Endgame. Some projects like Spider-Man Far From Home and WandaVision have handled that fallout really well, while Eternals, for example, really struggled to make audiences care about this new superhero group that just came out of the woodwork. It's definitely changed some perceptions about the future of the MCU, but if you think the franchise is on its last legs, then may I present to you Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. If there's one thing that's been clear throughout the entire Guardians trilogy, it's that director James Gunn has been passionate about bringing these characters to life and getting audiences on their side. The first Guardians film was really the first MCU flick that latched onto that style of humor that we now just take for granted, and while the Guardians have always been good for a laugh, Volume 3 is presented as their grand finale before they all sail off into the sunset. And because of that, Volume 3 is far more dramatic than anything we've seen before. Sure, there are still plenty of comedic moments to keep audiences entertained, particularly whenever Drax and Mantis are on screen, but those moments play second fiddle to the overarching story, which is a deep dive into the backstory of Rocket. We've always known that Rocket had to endure something horrendous to become the character that we know him as today, but after an accident sees the gang rush off on an adventure to save Rocket's life, the film doesn't pull any punches with diving into that backstory. In fact, that backstory is so harrowing that the film could be seen as a cautionary tale about the moral implications of vivisection and animal cruelty. Some parts of the film are really tough to watch, and it goes back to the fact that James Gunn doesn't treat this subject matter flippantly, as there's plenty emotional weight to be found here, and it leads to some dramatic performances that we just aren't used to seeing from these characters. What really helps to drive the film forward, however, is its new villain, the High Evolutionary, who's responsible for countless experiments on animals, including Rocket. Every time he appears on screen, he completely steals the scene, particularly for the fact that he believes he can do no wrong and that all of his experiments are totally justified. Usually there's the temptation to make an MCU villain that you can partially empathize with, but that only works to an extent, and sometimes it's just a lot of fun to have a villain who you just love to hate, because it makes that final arc all the more rewarding. Without giving much more away, I will say that this is the MCU's best film since Spider-Man No Way Home, and even though James Gunn is going off to do his own thing at DC, I really hope that Marvel sees the benefit of hiring directors like Gunn for future projects. The MCU isn't dead, it just needs filmmakers who are passionate about the rich catalogue of storylines and characters that are just begging to be adapted to the big screen. I hope you've enjoyed my review of Guardians Volume 3, and if you've seen the film, then let me know in the comments below, and while you're here, why not check out some of the other videos I've put out. Oh, and if you don't mind hitting that subscribe button before you jump off this video, that would be amazing. But either way, thanks for watching.